Hey everyone, welcome to the New Populist. I'm Dave Brown. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Well, in my last video, I was discussing energy density, how civilization, as we progress, we've used more and more dense energy sources. And I briefly had touched on solar energy, and I said that solar energy is okay, but it's not the solution going forward. So I figured I would give a more detailed explanation. As it turns out, I spent close to 10 years in the solar energy industry. My specialty was solar water heating, but I also dealt with PV or photovoltaic. And I thought I would give you a very detailed explanation for why solar has certain uses and certain applications, which is great, but it is not the final solution. That's maybe not the best term. Best solution going forward as far as solving the problem of energy on this planet. So by the end of this video, I hope I can give you a very comprehensive reasons for why this is. And I first want to start off with PV for your home. Now, I've talked to hundreds of homeowners, and they say, Dave, should I get solar energy? Is my house a good candidate for solar? And my answer is, I don't know. There are so many different things that go into whether or not a house is a good candidate for solar panels. And the very first reason and the very first thing that comes up is, which direction is your house facing? You can have this beautiful house with this wide open surface for all these panels, but if your house is facing north, right there, it's almost a waste to put panels on your house. You can get some energy, but the amount of energy you're getting really isn't worth the investment or the putting money into all those panels. So right there, so many people are eliminated from getting solar panels on their house simply because their house is pointing in the wrong direction. Another issue, latitude. If you are further north, of course, the sun angle is much lower. Lower sun angle means you get less energy. So the further north you go, the less efficient solar panels are. Now we have good technology and we can account for a lot of this, but if you're too far north, you can get some production, but it won't be as good as if you were closer to the equator. So all those places in Northern Europe, you can put panels there, but it's not that good, right? Another issue, we have these construction companies building all these new housing developments. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, and there's constant construction of these brand new facilities, brand new houses on apartment complexes. And one of the problems is that they build these really complicated roof spaces. Now, your regular farmhouse or rancher has two planes, like this, real simple. You can put a bunch of panels on a house like that. But these new houses have all these different little angles. It's very intricate. They don't have two surfaces. They have 12. They have dormers here, the garage is this steep there, and it is these weird little angles. And simply by how your roof is designed, it may not be a candidate for solar panels. Instead of getting, say, 30 panels for a roof, which is a good number for a house, you might be able to only get 10 or 15, and they'll be disconnected in weird spots, and then there's shadowing issues. And so just by how your roof is designed, your house may not be a good candidate for solar panels. So, and you see this a lot, again, with these new houses and these mansions, these McMansions. You have a lot of these weird angles, and these rich folk buy these houses that are not candidates for solar panels. And that's actually another issue as well. People with a lot of money, unless they're really down with the cost for green energy, do not want the eyesore of having solar panels on their house. Go look at the Obamas in Nantucket, their $12 million home. Go check it out. Not a lot of solar panels. And by not a lot, I mean zero. They don't want that on their house. Now, some people are okay with the panels on their house, provided it's on the back of their house, so you can't see them from the street. Now, if the back of their house is pointing to the south, they might get the panels. But if the back of their house is pointing to the north and the front of their house is pointing to the south, they don't want those panels because it is an eyesore. So a lot of these people who talk a big game about green energy, when it comes to actually getting solar panels, they do not want the eyesore, and so they choose not to get them. Other issues, trees. That's an obvious one. You live near a tree line, you got these big trees covering, your roof might be shadowed during the time of the day when you get the most energy. That's between 9 and 3. So simply by having too many trees around you, it might block your roof, making your solar panels inefficient. Other issues, when you install panels, you're drilling into the house through your shingles, and you're going to have 30, 40, 50 different penetrations into your roof, into your rafters. If it's done correctly, you should be okay. It should be waterproof. If it's done kind of shabbily, you can start having leaks into your attic there. And then to fix this problem, you can do patchwork. You have somebody come in there and just fix where it's leaking at. But if you do it right, and if the issue is big enough, you have to pull the panels off the roof and replace the roof. And that in itself can cost you $15,000, $20,000 for a brand new roof. And if you're just doing a part of a roof, that's still going to cost you again $5K, $10K. So you have to make sure the people installing the panels actually know what they're doing. You can destroy a roof really easily by having a crappy install. Another issue, price of panels. The upfront cost for solar panels, PV, can be $30,000, $40,000. And for a lot of homeowners, that simply is a number they can't gather up. Spending that much money for panels isn't in the budget of the majority of Americans. So your other option is you can lease the panels. There are several companies that offer this program. They give you the panels for free, and then whatever you save on energy, they split the cost with you. Is that a good idea? Sometimes, but there are issues. If you want to sell your house, there's an issue now. Now you got to talk to the company, and then on the contract, there's all these little clauses there that limit your flexibility. So when you lease the panels, you're entering into a contract with a company that now has a lot of power over what you can do with your own roof in your house. So if you lease panels, I recommend you read the fine print to make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. And so that's what happens with the residential side of PV solar panels. All these issues come into play. Now, on the commercial side, people say, let's build all these PV panel fields. You know, we can clear space out, build a bunch of panels, have this huge field of panels to replace, say, nuclear or coal power plants, right? So how many panels would you need to produce the same amount of energy as your average nuclear reactor? Well, the answer is over 3 million panels. That's what you would need in order to produce the same amount of energy as a nuclear reactor, provided all those panels are actually producing electricity. As you're well aware, at nighttime, no sun, no power, no electricity. So if we're looking at the scale there, 3 million, you can see that it's not efficient to replace nuclear power with PV solar panels. It simply is not. Unless there is a technology that allows us to gather more energy from the sun than what we can do now, it simply isn't worth it. Now, what about hot water panels? And this is a little more of a niche field, so you may be, I'm sure you're aware of PV panels, but there is solar water heating, which I consider myself an expert in. These systems are very they're fickle. I spent years actually repairing commercial solar water systems in the Washington, D.C. area. And the problem is with these systems at the commercial level is, unlike traditional plumbing, solar water heating is much more complicated and much more dynamic. When you have a normal plumbing system, your water comes in off the street, it goes into your water heater, it heats up, and it goes out to wherever it's being called to. When you have solar water heating, you have all these panels on a roof, these 4x10, 4x8 panels on a roof. You might have 60 or 80 of them if it's a commercial establishment. And inside each panel are these little copper tubes, these risers. And these are for flat panels. These are flat plate panels. And so you're having these panels on this roof collecting all this heat and energy, heating up these panels, which have water or glycol inside them, antifreeze. And then it takes the heat from that roof, transfer it down to the basement, down to the boiler room, where it heats a 1,000-gallon water tank. And so you have this really dynamic change in as far as temperatures on the roof to your water heating or your water tank downstairs. And what happens is, if you can't transfer the heat from the roof down to the tank, you have a lot of problems. On the roof, these arrays come with pressure relief valves. If it can't dump that heat and there's too much and the pressure builds up too much, those valves start firing off. And so you'll be on a roof on a day where that heat can't get downstairs, and these valves will fire off, spraying this antifreeze and water all over the place. It can be a disaster. And these systems, there's pressurized systems, there's open systems, there's all these different systems you can use, but each of them has their own individual challenges as far as what can go wrong if you don't engineer it properly. And as I found out working in the industry, a lot of these systems were not engineered properly because plumbers who were being used to install these systems simply couldn't anticipate how the system would behave in this sort of dynamic situation where you have an energy source that's interacting with the panels that's inconsistent. And so one of the biggest problems, and this is actually pretty funny if you ignore the massive amount of money that was lost for this system, there was a system I worked on in DC that was at a very liberal university. So I won't say which one it was, but this university wanted panels because they support green energy and they wanted to have solar water heating. Just one problem. When do you get the most sun? Summertime. When does a university not have people using hot water because the dorms are empty? Summertime. So this university had solar panels for solar water heating, but when there was the most energy in the summertime, when these panels were hot and heating up, there was nobody using the energy because it was summer break. So simply by the facility that has the panels, by what kind of facility they are, that has a major influence on whether or not panels are good to have there. So here's the irony. Universities love green energy. They're very liberal. They're all about environmentalism. Yet they're some of the worst candidates for solar water heating panels because there's no one there in the summertime to use the hot water. Big problem. So in this system, in the summertime, it overheated. There's all these problems, and trying to re-engineer the system to account for the fact that there was no energy uses when the most amount of energy was there was an impossible task. And till this day, I don't know if that system's actually up and running. It should never have been put there in the first place. Now, there are other systems you can use. These are systems where they're called drainbacks. Basically, if there's no energy being used, or if the heating capacity is reached, it can just shut off and all the water can drain from the roof. So if it's too hot, it's not a big deal. It won't cause a problem. So again, for these commercial solar water heating systems, there's all these dynamic issues involved. and a lot can go wrong, not to mention the maintenance costs. You have antifreeze into some of these systems, or these closed loop systems. You have leaks, you have freeze damage, the pumps go bad. There's a million things that can go wrong with these systems if they're not engineered correctly. And even if they are, they require a lot of maintenance. Now, what about solar water heating for residential? And this kind of ties into this current energy issue, right? So the cost for heating water with electricity is very expensive as compared to natural gas. Now, there are those lease programs for PV, but when I was in the industry, if you wanted solar water heating systems in your house, you had to pay for it outright. There was no lease program, you had to buy it. Now, if you lived in a neighborhood with natural gas, your return on investment would take a very long time, 8, 9, 10 years, if not longer, to pay for itself, because the price of natural gas or the cost of heating with natural gas is so cheap that it's almost not worth it to get a solar water heating system if there's natural gas available for your neighborhood. Now, if you have electric is much more expensive, and now it might be more reasonable to want to get solar water heating. The return on investment for a system in a neighborhood with only electric might be only 3 or 4 years. So depending on where you're living at, solar water heating makes sense based on the energy. Now, if you're in Europe right now, what are they losing? They're losing natural gas from Russia, and they're seeing their bills skyrocketing. So if there is a rise in the price of natural gas, that can change the entire calculus as far as whether or not it's worth it to get a solar water heating system. So there are these outside factors that influence things, and depending on what happens as far as long term in Europe, maybe solar might have better applications over there. But in the United States, we have an abundance of natural gas, and unless there's some sort of dislocation in the market that I can't foresee, for most people who have natural gas, solar water heating simply isn't worth it. So to sum up, do I support solar? I do. But the application for solar is very specific. It's not a solution for everybody. It's kind of like, actually I won't talk about the vaccine. Vaccine is good, but is it for everybody? It depends on your personal situation. Likewise, solar for residential depends on your situation. And some people, simply because of all the factors I mentioned, having solar energy simply isn't a efficient thing to do, and you're not really a candidate for it. So it has very specific, not qualifications, but you need a certain circumstance to make it worth the money. And if you don't, it isn't worth it. So for those reasons, solar isn't a solution for everything from the macro level. It is more of a, again, if you're an environmental friendly person, go get solar. God bless you. Nothing wrong with it. And if you want to be off the grid, for example, and not be so reliant on the system, you can get your solar energy panels, your battery, and all that, and be off the grid. Go ahead and do that. But we're talking macro. We're talking about the planet. How do we give energy for this planet moving forward so we can live in modernity and not move backwards? And looking at it from that perspective, solar is not the solution. Well, that's it for now. I hope that answered some questions and gave you a better perspective. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.